All righty. See here. Okay, and so we are going live. Hi, welcome everyone. So good to see you all on our second webinar as part of our Climate Action Campaign Clean Energy series. Today we have a very special guest, Allison Mannos from the Clean Power Alliance, who will be sharing a little bit about how community choice energy has been working in Los Angeles and Ventura counties, and how they've been thriving despite COVID and economic challenges across the world. And so before we begin, I'd like to say thank you so much to all of our participants who are with us today, but also thank you for our generous donation from our sponsor, Calpine. Couldn't do this without them. And also, I wanted to provide a quick update for those of you who live in Irvine and are paying attention to the community choice energy movement growing out of Irvine and Orange County. We had a very tremendous update at our Tuesday City Council meeting. And so just in summary, there was unanimous consensus from the council yet again to continue to move forward on the JPA formation, and that the peer review that is ongoing is not going to delay the process. And so next, in the beginning of June, staff will be bringing back a full peer review and staff report, as well as scheduling JPA partnership meetings to continue moving forward on their city council timeline in late June, early July. And so this should entail invitations to our local mayors, interested council members, city managers, attorneys, etc. And staff will present more information then. So we'll keep you updated as we always are, as Southern California's leading climate watchdog organization at Climate Action Campaign. And without further ado, let me introduce our guest speaker today. So Allison Mannos is the Senior Direct Manager of Marketing and Customer Engagement at Clean Power Alliance. She manages external communications and customer engagements while bringing a decade of experience in marketing and nonprofit management and engagement throughout Los Angeles. Most recently, she worked for Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy, or LANE, and was the campaign director for Repower LA, which established equitable community solar, electric vehicle, and energy efficiency policies for LADWP. She has a long history of community outreach and volunteerism, including being one of the founding board members for Ciclavia, I hope I said that right, which is a nonprofit dedicated to public spaces, active transportation, and health through car-free streets. Allison received her bachelor's in Asian American Studies and Urban Planning from UCLA. So without further ado, let's welcome Allison.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations to all of you for advancing your work around CCAs in Orange County. That's really exciting to hear what's happening down south. So yeah, let me just make my screen full screen, and apologies in advance if any of my words are clipped because my internet is a little intermittent with Zoom, but bear with me. So yeah, let's dive into the presentation. I intend to try to keep it pretty succinct because I know there's a lot of knowledge in the virtual room today, and want to make sure that there's lots of time for discussion and sharing ideas and questions and so forth. So I'll just give you a brief overview of what led to CPA's formation, and how a basic overview on our service and rate programs, and then also what we've been doing around mitigating COVID-19 impacting our work. So some of you may know this already, but for those that are new to kind of the legislative history of CCAs, I wanted to include this brief slide, which I won't read verbatim, but just to try to give you a little historical backstory as it related to our formation. Obviously, 2002 was the pivotal year that AB 117 was passed, allowing for CCAs. And then we all know that Marin Clean Energy was the first CCA to start in the state in 2010. Kind of, a little sleepy on the CCA front after that, but I think in more recent years, as many advocates like yourselves have pushed for clean energy procurement and commitments throughout the state, you just see a huge boom of CCAs being formed up and down the state, and even in other states as well, since Marin formed.
So sorry to interrupt, Allison.
Yes.
I think folks are saying that your slides aren't showing. Could you share your screen?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That would help. I thought I was sharing my screen already, so let me try that one more time. Apologies. Here we go. Let's try that. Okay. Can everyone see the slides now? Let me know if that's showing up.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Sorry about that. I thought I had enabled that already, and it looks like I hadn't. So, okay, so we kind of just went through those first two bullets just for everyone following along. So fast forward to 2017. So LA County and the Board of Supervisors, especially Supervisor Sheila Kuehl, were working with the Sustainability Office in our county to look at how to form a JPA and CCA here. And I think the unique thing about us is that we're such a large JPA. We have 32 communities, which I'll show a little handy map of in a future slide. But the county had this really big regional vision of not just starting CCA for LA County unincorporated, but also seeing who else may want to join. And the Sustainability Office actually did the rounds and presented to all 88 cities in LA County, and to see if they wanted to join the JPA. And what resulted then was South Pasadena and Rolling Hills Estates were the other two early adopter cities that joined the county to form the JPA. And then there were communities in Ventura County that had been exploring creating a CCA who were like, wait, we think we should pair up with this new effort in LA. And so we became 31 communities eventually, and that's why we rebranded from being the LA Community Choice Energy JPA to Clean Power Alliance, because we were no longer limited to LA County. And it just goes to show, and I know you all are doing a lot of this work down in Orange County and San Diego, that being able to increase collective collaboration and buying power is a really attractive thing for cities, and in our case, it's worked out very well to have the largest JPA in the state. So once we got that off the ground, in February 2019 last year, we enrolled basically all of our residential customers. We had done this phased enrollment where we had in 2018, like we break it up into phases because we have such a large customer base. Not all CCAs may have to do as many phases as we do, but we enrolled the early adopters, municipal and commercial accounts in 2018, and then in 2019, all residential customers. And I had started a few months before that at CPA, and it was just like almost 1 million customers coming in. So you can imagine the scale of enrollment was like massive. And then by May last year, we enrolled the remaining commercial customers in the other communities that weren't part of the early adopter phase of enrollment. And this year, we're actually enrolling the city of Westlake Village in June. They're residential and commercial at the same time because it's a small community. And this was the city that joined after the JPA was formed. We have had other cities in our county that are not part of Clean Power Alliance ask us about doing feasibility studies and eventually possibly joining or not. That's something that's definitely an option depending on whether the study shows that it makes sense or not, and the council votes accordingly. So that's just sort of a little history of what's been happening with us. And so because enrollment was a big part of last year, I'll talk about it a little later down in the presentation, but we've been undergoing a lot of really exciting programs and other investments to build on that enrollment. So just a little quick primer about our service, and I think it might be helpful just as you all are working on things in Orange County and thinking about how how the future CCA may, decide its rates and options. This is, I think, a good educational primer. Again, here's the map that shows very quickly and in a visually friendly way how many communities we serve. And you can see how far apart they are. So we cover a lot of ground. I mostly focus on residential customers in LA County, and some of our other staff have different customer segments and areas that they focus on because it is such a large service territory. This is the list of cities. I won't read them verbatim, but they're on our website in case you ever want to reference that. And then we just discussed the time frame. So I won't reread this, but essentially, yeah, we're segueing into focusing on programs and resources and longer term planning. These are the 3 rate options. Now this is kind of a unique feature of Clean Power Alliance. There are other CCAs that offer multiple tiers. What Clean Power Alliance does a little differently is that we offer default rate tiers in addition to allowing individual customers to choose between them. And what I mean by that is that when each community that voted to join the Joint Powers Authority joined, they were allowed to choose a default rate for their community. So for example, the city of Santa Monica in LA County chose the 100% green power as a default rate. So when each phase of enrollment occurred, those customers were automatically enrolled at the default rate chosen by their local leaders. Once they were enrolled at that rate, they can always call the call center, even to this day, or go online and change if they wanted to opt down to a lower rate. And if their default rate was a lower rate, they can opt up accordingly. So it's not to say that an individual customer cannot make choices, but we sort of have this more nuanced way of trying to give people lots of options, and municipalities as well. And so the 3 rate options that we have, this is from a slide I did to unincorporated customers, so apologies for the orange square, but we offer lean power, which is 36% renewable energy with a that's a 1 to 2% bill savings compared to Southern California Edison base rates. We offer clean power, just 50% renewable energy, and that's at parity with SCE rates. And then we offer 100% green power, which is a 7 to 9% bill premium for 100% renewable energy. And again, just to recap, at any time, regardless of what your community's chosen default rate is, you can choose to change between these at no cost. So there are those kind of different layers of choice, and we have been very proud to, we don't advocate for a particular default rate for any community, but we're proud to be able to offer 100% green power to about 1/3 of our communities right now as their default rate. I wanted to segue to this because I know there's a lot of interest in rates. So what you're seeing here is what we call our joint rate comparison mailer. And this is something that is mandated by the CPUC that CCAs send out each year to customers as a way of helping customers make educated comparisons between the IOU and the CCA rate, depending on whatever offerings each provide that are comparable. So this was what we sent out last year, last summer. We will be sending out another one soon. So I promised Jose that I would send the updated one once we're done with that, in case folks want to reference that. But so here we see, we take one rate class, as we call them, which in this case is domestic, and it's one of the most common residential rate classes. You could be on a special rate if you were a solar customer and you have net energy metering. That's just an example of rate classes for those that are unfamiliar. And so in this case, we show across domestic, we show what Edison charges at its base rate, at their 50% renewable product and their 100% renewable product, which are special rates that customers can voluntarily sign up for. Then we show how those compare to our lean, clean, and 100% green power rates. And then on the right, we put our power content label, which shows the mix of power sources from the year prior. It's always kind of retrospective in that regard. And it's we always put these together so people know what kind of energy that they're paying for and at what price. And so this is just to kind of show you, like, for those that are really into crunching numbers, how the savings reflect, or the premium, depending on what rate tier you're talking about. And this is also available on our website under our customer notices subpage in case anyone wants to dig deeper. Okay, so on to the juicy stuff, our customer programs. This is always what everyone wants to start the CCAs to do and delve deeper into, aside from the procurement. So I've been able to have the fortune of working on a really great team to advance some new customer programs this year that we've recently launched. So the first program that I wanted to mention, that's probably our most extensive, is what we call our CPA Power Response Program. And this is a demand response oriented program in coordination with customers that own certain smart technologies that we want to build a more sophisticated demand response program around. The three technologies that we've chosen to focus on in the pilot phase of this program are electric vehicle chargers that are owned by commercial, industrial, and municipal customers, solar and storage, and this could be commercial or residential customers. And then we also have focused on smart thermostats in residential customers. And one thing that we've really tried to do is be inclusive and thoughtful with the program design up front, so that there are incentives and marketing and various elements that will reach our disadvantaged communities, so that we have a more inclusive enrollment from the beginning. So I'm going to just go a little deeper into each of these technologies and what we intend to do. So for smart thermostats, now a lot of our customers actually, well, there have been a chunk of them that do already own smart thermostats, which they got when they were SCE customers. So we're targeting a mix of those customers, and then encouraging people who don't have one yet that want to sign up through SoCalGas's marketplace for the rebate to get one. And so once the smart thermostat is installed, basically customers will enroll through our app. We also are trying to pilot doing a phone enrollment process for our disadvantaged community customers who may have barriers to technology access. But during peak events, as we call them, we would basically send an alert ahead of time through the app or by text to participating customers to let them know, hey, we're gonna be calling this from 2 to 3 today. Make sure that you power down the smart thermostat to the temperature we're asking you to do. And so if they then accept and then actually follow the directions or allow us to manually do so, then we'll give them we'll give them like financial incentives for that participation. And it's a little higher for our disadvantaged community customers. So that's one piece. Solar and storage. So similarly, whether you're residential or a commercial customer and you already have both of these technologies installed, we will also use the app to do just exactly what we did with the smart thermostat customers, like send you an advance notification in order to have you adjust your equipment and usage. And so this is just a little more detail about what those incentives look like. We also will have a small incentive fund for customers that would like to obtain batteries. We're looking mostly at commercial customers, but we're trying to see how we can design it to accommodate the diversity in our commercial customer base, because obviously, like, there are large commercial customers and they're small business, and so we're looking right now at how to kind of finalize some of those details. Excuse me. And then the last piece is around electric vehicle chargers with commercial municipal customers. And so by notifying them by app as well that events are coming, we can have them adjust the charging and when it's happening in order to, make sure that we're putting less stress on the grid and conserving during peak hours. So this has been a really exciting program. That we're doing. We just launched this pretty recently, and we're engaging in we're trying to do a lot of creative marketing efforts to make sure that we're reaching very different customer segments and being inclusive. And we've developed a dashboard of data of customer enrollments that we are putting some of the finishing touches on that we would like to be able to publicly release so that people can follow along and see like how we're doing and make comments. So that's CPA Power Response, also available on our website. Another thing that we launched recently is our solar marketplace. This is something that many utilities and CCAs have looked at or launched already. We wanted to make sure that we had a user-friendly marketplace where people who might be looking at buying solar and or battery storage could get, quotes in a convenient manner, all in one place, and just shop around easily. Because I don't know about you, but shopping for a battery storage unit for your house is probably not the easiest thing to do. We probably don't know a lot of people who already have done it successfully. So this is something that we hope will help our customers, especially if they live in like a wildfire prone area where there's a lot of PSPS events. So that's also available through our website and these slides. And then one thing I didn't put a slide on, but that I wanted to mention is that we are working with all of our communities, whom we call member agencies, to identify sites where we can install a battery storage unit on a critical facility. This is not a program that we've started construction on yet. We're still in the research phase of identifying those sites and making sure it meets each community's needs. But we are looking at sites like on fire stations, hospitals, community centers that serve as resilience hubs. So we're asking our member agencies to tell us where it makes sense. We're also looking at, we've submitted a couple of applications to participate in what is known as Cal EVIP, which is an electric vehicle charging station fund through the state. We've been working with Ventura County communities to try to direct funding there. And then we also have applied to the CPUC and submitted our advice letter to start a disadvantaged communities green tariff and community solar green tariff program. So once we receive word back from them in fall, we're hoping that we'll be able to proceed with starting those programs. So those are kind of the things that are in the works. And because we are such a young CCA, we are still developing these programs, but we are proactively seeking resources and or launching things so that we can just see what works and what's complementary to what's already out there, so that we're advancing further GHG reduction. So a little bit about our service and outreach during COVID-19. So of course, this has disrupted everyone's lives everywhere. And there have been a few things that we've had to retool and new things that we've done in order to make sure that we're still serving our communities effectively during this time. So in terms of marketing and customer engagement, that's not been the only area we've had to adjust, but that's my area, so I'll focus on that. So we've been recently, our board approved financial assistance and bill credits in particular for particular residential and small business customers that have been impacted by COVID-19. And so we've run a full-fledged marketing campaign in English, Spanish, and Chinese, which are the top languages in our service territory, that we've run on Facebook to help people learn about the CARE and FARA and medical baseline financial assistance programs and enroll in them, energy efficiency tips, promoting our new COVID-19 relief program and how to get those bill credits. So we really just try to make sure that we're reaching our customers, even if we can't talk to them in person. And we found that the Facebook ads have been quite effective, especially in reaching monolingual customers. We're seeing a very high level of engagement on Facebook, which I've been very happy with. A lot of sharing, a lot of people saying, thank you so much for these resources. We're so grateful to learn about them. That I'm very sure we wouldn't naturally have reached without this targeted marketing. So we've also been doing radio ads. So we have Mandarin, Cantonese, Spanish, and English language ads running as we speak to let customers know about this. And then we also So I developed and am managing our community-based organization CBO outreach grant. So many utilities and agencies have some kind of iteration of a program like this, but the grant is intended to work with, we have 5 community partners in LA and Ventura counties that are reaching our low-income and disadvantaged communities and our customers there to ensure that they understand our service, that we're building a long-term relationship with them, and that they get enrolled in CARE and FARA and our other customer programs. And so we just awarded our 5 grantees and did our first training via webinar last week, which went very well. And so we have given all of our CBOs social media content in all 3 languages so that they could hit the ground running and start their social media, phone, and other creative engagement. All of them had to retool their scope of work, in fact, because of coronavirus. But they've come up with some pretty creative ideas, including electronic billboards and PSAs and social media ads that have a hashtag kind of contest to get engagement. So I'm proud of them because they found a lot of other ways to engage people. We've ramped up our mailers and emails, but obviously in a targeted way. So for CPA Power Response, we did a multilingual postcard, sorry for the typo here, about smart thermostats to our customers that already own them. We did them in the 3 languages, and we targeted by communities where we know there's a lot of monolingual speakers to match up with the language. And we got a pretty good engagement on that. After we sent the mailer, we saw a big uptick in folks enrolling in the CPA Power Response program for the smart thermostat piece of it. So we're excited to build on that further. And then, as I mentioned, we're trying to be creative and create a new phone enrollment process for our disadvantaged community residential customers, as well as a complementary referral program, so that we're really helping folks that wouldn't naturally engage in these efforts have an easy way and an incentive to get their communities, their friends, their neighbors and family members enrolled in CPA Power Response if they have the smart thermostat. And so if someone were able to call us and just say, I'm interested, I have the smart thermostat, that they would be able to go through a certain process to verify eligibility on the phone, and then be emailed or texted their terms and conditions as a way of making sure that they know what they're consenting to. We're trying to find simplified enrollment processes that are more community friendly, basically. So yeah, so that's one other effort. And then as far as enrolling Westlake Village, as I mentioned, that's happening June 2020, but we do send out our 4 mandatory enrollment notices by mail anyway to our customers. And so we've sent those out, or some of them out, and we have been doing targeted Facebook ads to that community to let them know about our service and what to expect from enrollment. So those are kind of the ways, some of the ways that we've been trying to retool during COVID. I know it's impacted other departments differently, like regulatory and policy and procurement to some degree. But the one that I was just going to focus on was marketing today. And then this is like just a photo of the webinar of the CBO outreach training that we did. So yeah, and then as far as the financial assistance that we've offered our customers, so basically residential customers who are on our income assistance programs, who sign up for the program will get a $25 bill credit automatically. We wanted to make the process simple so that customers don't have to necessarily go through a lot of hoops to get aid when we know our communities need aid sooner. If they're already enrolled in one of the income assistance programs and they sign up for a bill payment plan through SCE, they'll get a $25 bill credit. And small business customers who sign up for a payment plan will also get they will get a $50 bill credit. And this is all on or after March 16th. And so we have $1 million we've allocated. So we try to encourage our customers through the marketing campaigns and outreach to make sure that they either sign up for the income assistance programs or the payment plans, because it's basically first come, first serve. So, and then we've been trying to let people know about the California climate credit being expedited. I'm sure most of the people here are already well aware of that because you're in the know, but we've been letting our customers know that that's a complement to any aid or financial assistance they might be getting through us or through the Care Fair programs. And yeah, and then this is just a recap on those programs and their eligibility, in case anyone here wants to look at this later. And all of this is, of course, administered through SCE, but our customers are eligible for the program. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of my presentation. Follow us on social if you're not already. I know some of you do, but this is our Facebook and Twitter. And we also have an email newsletter too. And yeah, I just wanted to stop there and turn it back to Jose and everyone and just, hopefully engage in a dialogue.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Allison. You've covered so much, and I'm sure you've gotten a lot of our viewers excited about what's possible here in Orange County as we continue to ramp up efforts to launch our first CCE. And so I have a couple of questions for you from Climate Action Campaign. And while I'm asking these questions, folks, feel free to throw your questions in our chat box via Zoom. Or also on our Facebook live stream as well. Be sure to capture your questions through there. If we miss anything, I'll be sure to pass them along, and hopefully Allison is okay with volunteering to answer them after the stream. The webinar slides, are we allowed to make those available, Allison? Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be sure to post them on our website, climateactioncampaign.org and occleanpower.org. So with that, our first question is, I'm not alone when I say that Orange County cannot wait to find out some of the answers to these questions. And now that we're facing a double crisis of both COVID and climate, could you tell our viewers whether the time is still right to launch a community choice energy program like Clean Power Alliance during this economic recession and COVID public health crisis?
Yeah, it's a timely question. I mean, I guess I would say there's not really a perfect time to launch a CCA in general, even with these challenges we face from COVID-19, because it's a big undertaking. Even if you have less than 31 cities, you still have a fundamental shift that you're making in terms of governance, procurement, letting the community know about actually having choices, which, by the way, is not something most people know, and it's a whole new concept you have to do community education around, versus people being used to their default IOU. There's just a lot of things that are already complex and require a lot of care as it is, and of course coronavirus doesn't help with that, but I would say that, I mean, we aren't stopping what we're doing because coronavirus is happening. We're adapting as we need to, and we're trying to be definitely sensitive to our customers' needs, but we're still running our procurement request for offers and signing contracts right now for new projects. Like, we just signed a 100 megawatt battery storage project a month ago. And so I would just say, like, as complex as it is, that keep the faith, and it's going to be a lot of work regardless of what's happening in the world, and it is an important thing that you all are doing.
Absolutely. And just for our viewers, I just wanted to clarify that the Clean Power Alliance approved a 100 megawatt battery storage project by partnering with the city of Lancaster just a month ago. So is that correct?
It's not with the city of Lancaster, but it is in Lancaster. The project is cited there. That is correct, at the location. But we had an basically with our request for offers process with procurement, we have energy developers bid in projects that they can get approvals for with the local zoning. And so it is in Lancaster, and it's exciting because it's really going to help us with meeting like our state goals with renewable and reliability goals, and then also it's very close to us, and so it's just a good local investment and getting jobs in the community. But yeah, it is in Lancaster, so it's very close to where we are.
Oh, thank you for clarifying that. I know that CPA is still growing, is still signing contracts. There was a 10, uh, was there a 10 megawatt and 15 megawatt contract signed just last week or approved by the board?
Yes, we had a couple of contracts, solar and storage, a standalone battery storage, and then we also an existing small hydro project, which are all in Southern California. So we're trying to make sure that we diversify the portfolio too, that it's not just like one or two resources, but we're really looking at dealing with intermittency. So I mean, that I just say that only to show that like there are still momentum even during this time for us, given the challenges. We're still proceeding forward with new contracts. So.
That's so exciting, and I'm so glad I asked that question. So you mentioned a little bit about how Clean Power Alliance is adapting to COVID. Um, so is there anything that you also you want to add as to what CPA is doing on COVID strategies, or what do you see as a post-COVID community choice world?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other things I would add to what I already said is that, it is affecting the procurement world a little bit, just because obviously we're seeing reports in the news about, solar and wind installers, having to cut back on their workforces, given the quarantine orders. And so we're monitoring how that will affect procurement. It's hard to kind of say because things seem to change every week during this time. So there is that piece that we're kind of monitoring, and like any legislation around that too. And then the other, let's see, what was the other thing I was going to share about that? Yeah, just like with the, meeting our regulatory goals around storage, like the CPUC has required CCAs and IOUs to meet their IRP goals with storage compliant amounts within the next couple of years, in order to kind of reduce our natural gas reliance. And so again, that's still tied to procurement, but we want to make sure that like we're still, right now we're doing pretty well, but we're mindful of the fact that if energy developers are affected by this, it can kind of make it a more complicated picture. But for right now, we've signed those contracts and we're moving forward. So we're just proceeding forward as best as we can.
Oh, thank you. So I have a couple of questions from the audience, and again, feel free to add them to our chat box or our live stream. So our first question is from Stephen, who asks, I think it's a question on like what constitutes your renewable energy mixes. So large hydro is also not considered part of the renewable power mix on the lean, clean, and green chart. Is that true?
So that particular slide, again, it's a retrospective look, and that is actually, even though we mailed that last year, it was looking at our mix from 2018, because each year we have to, share with the CPUC, and then therefore our customers, how we did for the year prior. That's just the way the process is for everyone. Everyone's obviously eager to know what our sources are like right now, but that's just like how the process is set up. So, and given that was 2018, we weren't serving all of our customers at that time, and we hadn't signed a lot of contracts yet. So we have a mix of short-term and long-term contracts. And so, especially in the beginning, we were heavily reliant on short-term energy purchases in order to start supplying electricity. Some of that is renewable and some of it hasn't been. The more long-term contracts that we sign and lock into place, then we can kind of rely more on that. And that is, all of those are renewable energy sources. And so our intention was always to try to expedite long-term contracting as quickly as possible. So that way we also have, locked in competitive pricing as well for our customers. But yeah, that, sometimes people are like, wait, you're not getting 100% solar and wind and all that. So that's sort of like the long-winded answer to that, is like the process to get the long-term contracts started and then it's built, right? Because one thing about us in a lot of CCAs is that we're not merely just only taking over existing renewables. We're putting new steel in the ground, which creates more jobs. However, the projects then have to be built. So it's like it takes a minute for it to get online onto the system, and so it's a good investment in the community, but it's also not something that happens like in 2 months. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. Our next question is from Kimberly. So additional savings. Okay, so could you elaborate a little bit more on the medical baseline program that you offer? And a follow-up question is, what are smart thermostats, if you can explain more on that?
Okay, yeah, sorry. I think I maybe assumed too much. So please ask any of these kinds of questions if anything I said is not clear. As far as medical baseline, it's not a program that we offer, but our customers can take advantage of. These are actually, the CPUC oversees these financial assistance programs, but they are administered through the IOUs. So in Orange County, Edison would be administering these programs, even if there was a CCA, to those CCA's customers, just like here. So just to clarify and make those distinctions, medical baseline is for folks that have equipment, electrically powered medical equipment, who also meet income requirements. And so they get additional energy for their devices at no extra cost. And I'm not exactly sure how that's calculated, but it is in the application process somehow. So if you or someone you know needs to get enrolled in that, you can go to the sce.com/care website and get more information in the application. And then you can either call them or do your application online. But that is kind of the high level info about that program.
Well, thank you. So I have a question from Paul Berry. So are we moving away from net metering, and can commercial or residential customers with battery maximize their solar arrays and release on demand basis for compensation? So are we limiting solar to property needs? So I guess this is touching on what a lot of us want to know. A lot of us want to put solar and even more solar than we're going to need. Does Clean Power Alliance help their customers with this, or how does this work?
Yes, I will get to that. And then I just recall, and I'm seeing this chat, that I forgot to define what the smart thermostat was.
Oh, me too, I'm sorry.
I knew there was another question, and I was like, what was it? Okay. So the smart thermostats, let me just share my screen one more time to go back to the presentation, just so that you guys can see the actual image featured here of what it looks like. Can everybody see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, hang on one sec. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes. Okay,
so this picture here is of a generic smart thermostat, but there are many brands of them. And basically, they are, you install them on your wall, and then they're Wi-Fi enabled. So usually there's an app that you can control on your computer or your phone to set the temperature, lower it, make it intermittent, so that's not continuous. The whole point of them is to help be sort of a user-friendly way for customers to adjust their heating and cooling so that it's less wasteful. So these are all readily available in like a lot of stores that sell thermostats, and so they're kind of gaining more popularity because they're very techy as well. So people love tech, and anyway, that's what a smart thermostat is. But going back to the solar and NEM question, let me unshare my screen. Okay, so yeah, we have net energy metering customers in Clean Power Alliance, both commercial and residential. We have a net surplus compensation rate that's always 10% higher than SCEs. So we do offer that perk to our NEM customers, and we aren't necessarily offering like solar rebates like maybe some utilities, but we, again, we have the solar marketplace for people to easily shop around for the equipment themselves. And so we, it's not our main focus, because for us, it's important to, get those long-term contracts signed, which is what keeps the prices very reasonable, and meets our goals. And then it's also about, programs and other things that complement how the energy is consumed. That's why we are very focused on demand response and less about just purely equipment rebates, because you'll notice that SCE offers quite a number of programs around equipment rebates. And so our intention is to be complementary and not duplicative. So, so yeah, of course we'll have other offerings down the line, but for the, time being, that's what our strategy has been. So we are not advocating for nor against people getting solar and battery storage units. We understand that that's going to be growing in popularity, and for the energy that those homes and businesses don't generate themselves, then we're here for you. We're here to give you options to have 100% green power for those times when it's cloudy, or you're not, your battery ran out. So we see ourselves as kind of complementing what others are doing on their own roofs. As far as people using their battery storage units to send power to the grid, like I haven't really heard of a lot of customers that are in that position. It would be interesting just on a personal level to know who those people might be. But right now, so few even have the units that I haven't heard of people being in a position where they could release excess energy. So it's not something that I would say is like an urgent thing in demand right now. But we're not necessarily against things like that. But it's also not our main focus because of the other goals that our board has mandated us to meet.
That's right. So again, thank you for that. I just wanted to repeat some of what Allison said for those who are watching. If you are wanting to install solar and you're not using all of your energy, CPA actually offers a 10% higher,
net surplus compensation rate.
Net surplus compensation rate,
yeah.
Compared to SoCal Edison. So that's huge. I mean, I would love to benefit from that. And so if you have any questions, drop them into the chat box. So I saw a question on, let's see here. I saw a question on the percentage or the opt-out rate. So do you know the opt-out rate of customers who want to stay with SoCal Edison and don't participate in Clean Power Alliance? I think I saw it was in the 90s, high 90s.
Yeah, so we get that question a lot from people who aren't like following it, play by play. And we've been able to retain the vast majority of our customers. Obviously, at any time, a customer can choose to go back to Edison. Like they can choose now if they hadn't already last year. But for the most part, we've seen it stabilize. And so we're about 94% of our customers have stayed with us. So, we've kept the vast majority of folks, and I think it's because our pricing is competitive. We've tried to do our best to do outreach to 1 million people. I mean, obviously it's not enough, but we've tried to reach every community in some shape or form and really engaged our board and member agencies in that effort. And I think just because people are seeing that they have options, they don't necessarily pay more unless they're at the 100% green power rate. And the fact they can switch between the tiers and get on Care and Farah. I mean, there's just a lot of options for people to make it manageable. So we're seeing that, I mean, in certain communities, of course, feel differently, whether for or against being part of a new initiative, and they had the option to leave if they felt strongly against it. But for the most part, people have stayed with us. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing from Cal CCA as well, which is the Community Choice Trade Association across California. They're saying that 95% of your customers have stayed with the program.
Yeah. So.
Let's see here. Okay, so I saw a new one from Betty Lima. is the lower cost of oil, which will drive down natural gas prices, going to make fossil fuels so much cheaper that green energy cannot compete?
It's kind of a weird question because it's kind of, first of all, like oil is separate from natural gas, but I would just say, as you probably been following in the news, that the price has been, like coal is no longer economic, obviously. Natural gas is starting to also, I mean, just because we're all consuming less, it's starting to be, its price has changed. Renewables are becoming, they've really come into their own, where they are now more competitive in price than a lot of other fossil fuels, without even just the economics of it is starting to pencil out for a lot of people. And so you're seeing like utilities out of California, like even I believe some utilities in the South I was reading about in Utility Dive have chosen to kind of stop using certain fossil fuels like coal because it just, for purely financial reasons. So I think we're just seeing a maturation of the market of renewables, where people are understanding that the financial aspects of it make sense. And I think that's only going to increase, especially the more procurement that CCAs and others do. It's going to bring the price of technology down, especially battery storage. And so battery storage is kind of like the next area of growth that is going to make it much more possible to be competitive with natural gas, because if you pair that with existing solar and wind, then you just have this like mega renewable energy site that really leverages the full potential of the site, and it's very cost effective. So you're seeing a trend now actually in the renewable energy world where a lot of utilities and energy developers are looking at trying wherever possible to pair new storage with existing solar projects, and not just have them be isolated projects when possible. So if anything, it's kind of the inverse of what the question that was asked is sort of what's actually happening, I think.
Definitely. And again, I think the price of solar is 2 cents a kilowatt hour and dropping right now. So, I mean, that price is still very competitive with the prices for natural gas across California. So we have time for maybe 2 more questions from the audience. And so I think there's this really great question from Stephen again. So he's talking about the 100 megawatt battery project, but I think this question gets at kind of the need for the utility scale solar and renewable energy development compared to the local and community solar facilities, rooftop solar, et cetera. So could you speak to how Clean Power Alliance is navigating the need for both of those? I think you touched on it a little bit earlier.
Yeah. I mean, our request for offers procurement process has been focused both on utility scale, but also distributed resources. Now, because we don't have like an in-house workforce that like builds our projects, like we, rely on what energy developers bring to the table, and then we either move forward and negotiate with them on a contract or we don't. But it's kind of a reflection on what's happening in the market at large. And so, we wanted to make sure that we had a distributed track in our more recent RFO. So that way we gave an opportunity for smaller scale distributed projects to come bid that might not necessarily, that shouldn't be compared with like utility scale projects at the exact same time, because they're just different. They're not, it's like we need to have apples to apples comparison. So we are trying to incentivize that. It doesn't necessarily look like, a large urban solar farm unless it's community solar, because LA and Ventura counties are you don't have a huge swath of land just open, and we have to get creative with like battery storage and community solar in an urban context. So yeah, that's kind of how we're trying to balance it, because the utility scale projects are what is going to keep the rates affordable. But then the smaller scale projects are great for resilience and community investments and jobs that we want to have a mix of the two, basically.
Thank you. And so we are approaching time. If you have any more questions, folks in the audience, feel free to send them my way. But with that, I'd like to just end our webinar by saying thank you so much to Allison for taking the time to speak with us today. I know that we gained so much valuable information from your talk, from your presentation, and we're really excited to show that not only LA is not the only place where this can happen, that Orange County families can also benefit from community choice energy as well. And so we're just thrilled to have you on. If there's anyone who needs to contact you, do you mind if I ask them to email me and then I can send everything your way?
Yeah, sure. And almost every single thing I went over in the slide is also on our website. We've tried to make it very user-friendly. So if you're interested in learning more about our customer programs or net energy metering, all of that is generally there. So yeah.
Yes, they're very transparent. I love looking at your JPA board meeting documents, 500 plus pages all the time. Okay, also for anyone who needs to contact us at Climate Action Campaign, my name is Jose Trinidad Castaneda, and my email is Jose, Jose, at climateactioncampaign.org. So you can find this recording on OC Clean Power on Facebook, as well as occleanpower.org, our website, and climateactioncampaign.org. And with that, thank you so much again, Allison. We're going to let you get going, and have a good rest of your evening, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care, everyone.